Okay, thank you so much for being here with me to discuss about security and open source. My name is Paolo. I'm the nice guy in the picture. The picture looks more good than me. And what I do for a living, I find vulnerabilities in open source software. I'm a security engineer in SUSE. And mainly I'm responsible in auditing a UUnit project. Maybe we will discuss later what a UUnit is in the open source ecosystem. But I'm responsible of auditing all the time, all my day, source code. And also an open source enthusiast, of course, and a contributor of many security packages. And if you search the sponge everywhere in the internet, probably I'm myself. I'm also wannabe hockey player with good results and a Dungeons and Dragons female draw cleric. But apart from that, yesterday during the keynote, SUSE CEO said a bold opinion that open source software is secure. Okay. I will say some bold opinions too in this talk. Please don't shoot at the pianist. Let's discuss instead of killing me, because I have 2 kids that want to see me again. We cannot take this assumption as true by default. Open source software is not secure because it is released on GitHub under a public approved license. Is secure because people is actually looking at the source code for security issues. And to prove that nobody is doing, or very few people is doing that, is that there are some independent, well, not independent because Synopsys is a company, but there are released reports that for the 80% of software out there contains vulnerability in their open source part. Or maybe there are components that are inherited, that have security vulnerability in the code base. Because when developers write code, they bring a lot of third-party vulnerabilities to do their job, and they didn't follow the life cycle of that vulnerability they use. So the main problem is that when a lot of people build an application, they forget about the third-party ecosystem. They just maybe audit, in case they do, their custom code. But if the, let me say, jQuery library you put in your web application as a vulnerability series, and you didn't follow the patches, you are vulnerable too. So the truth is that, of course, the majority of open source projects are written by a single person or a very little group of developers that most of the time doesn't have the financial capabilities to engage companies to do a professional security audit. And this is the main problem of the whole task, because if those assumptions would be false, then the open source is secure would be true. Okay. There are no person looking at the source code from a security perspective, and there are no financial support, or there are too few financial support to help maintainers, to help upstream in doing a security audit. So let's do ourselves. I mean, this talk is the first time I do this talk in this way. Is more an awareness talk to create awareness in you about that you can become the active part in the audit process. I mean, maybe you can start not today, but in some months to become more security-wise auditors in the source code packages you love most. Maybe there is a third-party library that you love, that you use a lot in your applications, and then you can start to thinking as an attacker, looking at that source code, thinking about, let me help the upstream maintainer in doing audit, on not just only reporting issues about functional bugs. Okay, I know that I put an elephant on the room, but what does it mean to do a security audit? Because it's very dangerous. It's very thought task. The process I suggest is to pick up a package. As I said before, the library you love most, or a third-party library in a language framework you are familiar with. You are Ruby developers, then you can start looking at active records or Rails or some very niche Ruby tiny third-party libraries that nobody look at, but that are used everywhere. Understand the code and its context. I mean, actually, and I will repeat a lot of times, doing auditing is not just firing up a static analyzer tool. It's part of the game, but you have, and it's what I did in my job. I do really read the code, because, and there is also a talk by me in the afternoon saying the machine can help, but is not good at auditing the code, as a human do. Because a human, we can understand the context where the code will run. Okay, in the context I mean that if you found a vulnerability, you make sure that is exploitable. Otherwise, there is no sense to report it or even to raise a red flag. Actually, audit it. And I will say after that what do I mean, and follow a responsible disclosure process. Because if we found a vulnerability but never report in a responsible way to the maintainer, then we failed our tasks. Okay, let's choosing wisely the code, because we don't have any time. Everything here in the room has a lot of stuff to do. We have a full job. Maybe we are parents. We are a lot of passion outside world. We can help the community, but we can make profitable of our time. So, using how famous a project is, or hey, it's written in Rust, or it's trending on Hacker News. It's wow, everyone is talking about that project. Maybe it's not good. It's not a good choice, because unless you are familiar with that technology. So, if you are Python developers, trending on Hacker News, there is the new Ruby OAuth library. Maybe it's not a clever choice to jump in auditing it. Choosing the equivalent part in Python, it is. And putting the software you are auditing in the right context. I mean, this example is fun because it's in a real case scenario of the software, of part of the uni software I'm auditing. I found a possible reflected cross-scripting. I was so happy about, I will ask a CVE, but eventually the server was listening only on localhost, inside a container, so it's almost impossible to exploit it. I raise a flag just to say, okay, when you have some free CPU cycle, fix it, because it's trivial, but it's not a security issue. Or at least theoretically it is, but there is no sense to shot with a gun when there is no security risk. And this is possible only with manual analysis. I mean, just a human can have the conscious about the context around the application. A program is not. That's why running a static analysis is just for boys. I mean, real men like us, like you, read actually the code. Okay, so auditing is a process when you start your, and I will describe what I did. Starting my editor, my favorite editor, that of course is VI, looking at the code, reading, and then on another part I will run it. Okay, maybe it's a part of a web application. I will identify the part of a web application this code is responsible of, and I will start hacking. Okay, I will start looking for low-hanging fruit like cross-scripting, like trying to inject something in the library and see dynamically how the application reacts. On the counterpart, I can see where the line of code managing my requests are and see if they are written introducing security issues or not. So that's why from my perspective, I do this job almost since 2001. Doing an audit is not only see statically how the program is written, but running and see the code. So in both dynamic and static analysis must be combined to see if vulnerabilities are present or not. When I find vulnerabilities, then I follow a responsible disclosure. What does it mean? And this is I think the most questionable point of the presentation. Okay, we found the vulnerabilities. Now what's next? We have to disclose to somewhere. Okay, there are some people thinking that writing a blog post, having a fancy website name and a logo like Heartbleed One is a clever choice, because they put the lights on you as a researcher. They this approach make you famous, but you didn't think that some nasty guys are present and look at your work, and if the patch is not available before you disclose the vulnerability, maybe exploits will be ready before the patch will apply to the system, and there will be people suffering from the vulnerability you discover, because nasty guys arrived first, then maintainers. So being responsible means that you contact maintainers, you contact software vendors, you explain what the vulnerability is and why do you find it. Because, of course, if it's an open source project, the open license make us authorized to do a security research on it and talk to the maintainer. But for a bit talk about a proprietary website. I did encourage you to check if you are authorized to do. Maybe there is a bug bounty program, and then stay in the rules. Otherwise, there will be legal trouble. But in case of open source project, we are lucky. We can do every security research we want. Talking to the maintainer, explaining privately the vulnerability. Now GitHub has also the functionality that if the repository is configured in a proper way, to submit a security issue to the maintainer that it's visible only to him and the people he decided to be the security team of their repository. This is the way to do. Okay, we as researchers needs to talk to developers, need to be responsible, and before disclosing to the world the vulnerability, has to give them the right time to write the patch, apply the patch, make a new release, and then we can be famous and disclose everything we found. That's it. This is the question and answer part. I know that is a little bit tricky, because maybe in your mind a question mark appeared saying, okay, but I'm not a security person. How can I start to do audit on the on code? My suggestion, if you are fascinated about this, is to take security guidelines that are available on the internet, maybe on the language you are more proficient to, and start applying to open source code. So choosing tiny projects. So it's a step-by-step learning, just a matter of being experienced. Because if you are able to write code and to understand code, then you are more than able to auditing. Please.
How do you communicate with upstream projects without any hint for email address or something like that before sending the patch to them? I would combine that there is no small time frame between.
Oh, okay. If I understand correctly, how can I communicate where there are no communication? Okay. Most wisely, maintainers put a security.md file with all instruction on about how security researcher can interact with them. If there is no that file, so there is no instruction on submitting, and the GitHub repository is not configured to communicate a security issue in a private way, but, well, I guess at least an email address for the maintainer is available in his GitHub, in his or her GitHub profile.
So you would look for the email address in the former commits?
Yes, yes. And maybe the first communication is, I'm Paolo, I am Mike, I'm a security researcher, I want to communicate with you about security. How can I exchange information in a secure way? Maybe he used GPG or he used another form of communication, or maybe he said, just write me an email, and then you start the follow. So it's a matter of find the email address in the commit message, let me say, and decide with the maintainer the engaging process. How can I communicate to you a security issue? And then start communicating. This is my suggestion.
Thank you, Paolo. I like it that you're a VI guy in the editor. So,
yeah, sure. So, there's no other options.
I know. My question is a follow-up to Sarah's. So of course, you have a package like Carl that is almost in every, like you look at the embedded world, I mean, everywhere. So how do you go about reporting? Because most of the time, obviously, the Carl guys have fixed it, right? So how do you go about when you have a proprietary vendor continuing to use that?
Okay. Well, in this case, if I understand correctly, we are not talking about an open source project. Exactly. We are talking about a proprietary software. In this case, my suggestion is looking at the vendor website if there is a disclosure policy. In example, openSUSE has a security disclosure policy. So if anyone find a vulnerability in our website, there is the instruction on how to contact us. Other vendors are the same or similar. Maybe there is a security at vendor.com email address, and then you can follow the same process. In this case, I will first check if there is a bug bounty program, because maybe the vendor authorized the people, a researcher, doing research, delimiting the perimeter of the research. Because in this case, you can occur in the risk that the vendor is not happy that you submit a security report and can complain. I know that is a stupid behavior because you are doing a favor to him, But there are cases that their advocate write to you saying, why do you find an issue in my code? I would like to introduce it. So I don't have there is no the right question to, is just a matter of step you can do. Trying to engage them in raising your hand, hey, I'm here for the piece, and then hope that they will understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello. You've mentioned that we should like pick the package and take a look at it as a whole.
Yes.
Should we also take a look at like the new contributions, or like either as a like contribution upstream, or maybe when the new code gets to the distribution? Is there something we can do on that from, like to?
This is a very good question. This is a tricky part of finding new vulnerabilities. Maybe you can spot it when you are following the life cycle of a third-party library. Because auditing is not a single process. You have to iterate. But, looking at new contribution, new patches, new pull requests is a good way to see, okay, let me see if the audit result is still consistent or new vulnerabilities are introduced. I don't know if this was answer your question. You are, no?
Maybe something more practical, or like is it on the developer, or like the development team to take care of this, like, or we should somehow get involved, or is it the role of tools maybe to help here?
No, from the no. Apart from manually review the pull request, and I don't think there are automatically tools doing a diff.
Ciao Paolo.
Ciao Filippo.
Maybe just a follow-up to the question by Sarah earlier. So if you are a normal developer or maintainer and you find something that you think is suspicious in one of your packages, you can go to your distribution security team. So you don't have to go upstream yourself. If you don't want, actually, I would recommend going to the security team first, if your distribution has one. If your distribution doesn't have one, maybe it's a bit concerning. But yeah, so...
If your distribution doesn't have one, maybe you can switch distribution.
Yeah, I would say so. So openSUSE does have a security team, and we do this for a living. Sure. So if you find something that you think is a bit fishy, or that's funny, why is it doing that? You can come to us, and we do disclosure for a living. So we can do the coordinated disclosure, we can take care of embargo, we can do all of it for you.
Sure, thank you so much, Filippo. What Filippo said is completely true. Also because distribution maintainers has contact with upstream and has contact also to internal security team that can make all this process easy to do. So if you are openSUSE user, of course, you can contact security at opensuse.org, talk with us, hey, I found a vulnerability in this code, can you help me to manage the process in a good way, and we'll help. Any other question, guys? I see. Thank you so much for all questions.
So, not really a question, but telling you something you maybe shouldn't do. So if we find an issue, and well, let's say we had some mails sent to the admin at openSUSE.org address, like, I'm a security researcher, I found something on your website. Do you have a bug bounty program? We answered, sorry, we are community, no money available, and never heard back. So in the end, we now just throw away this mail, sorry, because it's time wasted. So if you find something, it's okay to ask if there's a bug bounty, but maybe you should tell us what you find without money. So in the first mail, basically.
Yeah, I completely agree.
You know how many we get? Usually there's nothing. If they ask for a bug bounty, you can be almost certain that they haven't found the game.
Yeah, they are just there for the money.
One question later.
A short question. Do you also have your Black Duck and other SUS2 reports available on websites that we can take a look at as outsiders, or are they all internal?
For my for my personal, this is a security researcher in the team use their own Swiss Army knives to do security audit. I prefer using all open source tools like SemGrep, like Dawn Scanner that I've wrote on my own, like NPM audit. We didn't provide this kind of reports open when we close a Bugzilla ticket about a security audit, because they didn't say anything. I mean, because we as a researcher processed for you these reports, we screen from false positives, we transform the real outcomes in security issues that eventually will close it. So we described in the Bugzilla ticket the final GVC of the whole process. And we didn't disclose because they are almost useless, I guess. But we didn't use, or at least I personally don't use any proprietary static analyzer scanner. Any other questions? If not, thank you so much for being here, and see you around in the conference.